What if there was another way to actually live, a way that you can actually start to be in charge of your own healing, a way to get out of this survival mode and into creative mode? Well, it's my job as your host to introduce you to some modalities that might actually make all the difference and to give you your power back. My name is Sarah, and I have the pleasure of meeting you every week to discuss new modalities and new topics that are really making a difference out there. So, buckle up and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Healing Tree Hub. Welcome to another awesome subject. We're going to be talking about stress busters with one of my closest best friends in the world, Sol. Sol and I have been best friends for 26 years, and I am so excited to introduce all of these beautiful listeners to the most beautiful woman. She's incredible. She's completing her master's in counseling at the moment and doing some incredible work with her clients. And I find that Western medicine and Eastern medicine, they work so beautifully together. So I've invited Sol to share her knowledge on some really quick and fast tools and techniques that can really be game changers when dealing with anxiety and stress. So welcome, Soledad.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I know that my viewers and listeners are going to absolutely love this session because we have so much to talk about when it comes to dealing with stress and some of these tricks and techniques that you teach me in my practice. So, welcome. I'm so happy to have you on here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm keen to get started and just, delve into a conversation.
So, tell us a little bit about you and your business and what you're doing at the moment.
I'm currently a practicing mental health counsellor and also currently completing a master's degree in
Wow.
counselling. So a little bit about me. I've got a lot of different backgrounds that is just not related to counselling. I did a Bachelor of Performing Arts, music theatre, completely irrelevant. And somehow life's journey has just got me where I am today. So here I am. That's me in a nutshell.
And just watching you from the outside as well, it's been an absolute pleasure seeing you blossom. And this was definitely the area you were supposed to get into. You are an absolute
Yeah.
natural. And I'm not just saying that because you're my best friend in the whole entire world of 26 years. I think I just outed our age on that one.
We're 32.
Yeah, yeah. Sol and I met at 14 years old at a pool. Do you want to tell that story?
Exactly right. We met at a pool. Well, it was swimming sports. And Sarah was like this cool, new, blonde beauty at the school, stunning. And I was a bit
Oh,
bored and I
how the
walked
mighty
into
have fallen.
Oh no, she is still stunning. She's still stunning. And I went into the indoor pool just to heat up a little bit, and there was Sarah in the corner of the spa or in the corner of the indoor pool just by herself, like this cool, gorgeous cat. And I said, hi. And she said, hi, I'm Sarah. And I said, hi, I'm Sol. And then it was just like this beautiful friendship blossomed. And oh my goodness, we have been through just just so much together. 26 years jam-packed of fun, ups and downs, journeys, growth, picking each other up. It's just
Yes.
been wonderful. Wonderful.
I know there's not much we haven't been through.
No,
Even living in our like different states, and we still manage to keep our friendship so
exactly.
strong. We've had our babies together, we've been pregnant together,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
now
yeah.
interesting that the universe has found us both having our unique own spiritual experiences and
Yeah,
in different ways, but it's brought us together again. And now we're in the service industry of helping and assisting people in our own ways too. So
yeah.
it's really funny how things just keep you aligned. And some people in your life will continue in different directions, but some, depending on the similarities and how you're living your life, you'll stay in the same track, which is really cool.
100%.
Yes. So welcome. So that's a little bit of history about Sol and I. So I've actually mentioned you a couple of times on this podcast. I don't know if you've noticed. I've
I
named
think once.
just some of our little stories or our little kooky conversations.
Yeah.
I love it. So you've got a studio there in, is it Niddry or Essendon?
in Essendon North. So it's practically Nidri. It's where Nidri and Essendon North start on Keilor Road, if anyone is familiar with this area. Yeah, it's called Essendon North Collective, and my sister's actually a psychologist here as well. There's another couple of psychs, and there's me and another counsellor. So, yeah, pretty handy.
And you're also going to be working from the Wall and Healing Tree studio on Tuesdays for anyone in the northern region of Victoria.
Yes, exactly. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Sarah. If I can extend my service where people need it, I'm more than happy to do that.
Oh, I love that. You don't have to thank me at all. It's the collaboration with incredible women and men in the industry of working together and collabing is so important. I cannot stress it enough. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's about bringing people together, getting people known out there, getting the audience broader, because there's so many people that need your services that don't know you exist. So,
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
my pleasure. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those awesome little techniques that you give me for my clients. And you're also doing a workshop at Enchanted Crystal Company later this next month. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've got a little workshop on anxiety coming up. I am really passionate about that topic, really passionate about anxiety. I think there's just not enough information out there on what actually the process of anxiety, what goes on in our bodies, why people feel the way they do. And I'll also just be discussing the neurological implications and ins and outs of that, as well as, giving people some coping strategies to have up their sleeve to use to regulate themselves. And really looking forward to that. So hopefully in the next couple of months, I'll be there.
It is going to be so great. There are so many people suffering with anxiety these days. I see it day in and day out in the clinic.
Yeah.
And you do, obviously, that's your job. So it's
Yeah.
really important to be able to give people these short and fast techniques.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Because they're the ones that they're going to go to when they are having these episodes of fight and flight kicking off. They're just going to be able to take something really quick, a tangible tool to bring the nervous system down.
Definitely. It's a really good thing to have up your sleeve. Have up your sleeve, definitely. After that, sometimes people do eventually need to work on their triggers because just balance that anxiety out. But even having a few skills up your sleeve can bide you time and can really help you in situations of high stress. A lot of people suffer it in different and a variety of levels, but it goes beyond being normal anxiety, and then that's when it becomes a problem. Because what I like to say to my clients is that we shouldn't be scared of anxiety. You and I wouldn't be here if we didn't have anxiety. I would have probably gotten hit by a bus when I was crossing the road. It's a good thing to have unless we get to that level where it's just on overdrive, then that's when a little bit of intervention is handy.
So can you give us some of your favorite techniques that people could use when they're starting to feel maybe a panic attack arising or some hyperventilation or something? What's your favorite techniques?
I think a really good one that I always seem to go to, and it's really helpful, is working with mindfulness. Now, a lot of people think that mindfulness is the same thing as meditation. There's a really big confusion in that. Mindfulness is actually living in the present moment. So really being in your present moment, being where you are without letting your thoughts go haywire. So a good mindful technique is the 5-4-3-2-1 method, and it's all about your senses. So say that you're experiencing a fight or flight response and you're really stressed and your thoughts are everywhere. A really good way to kick in that rational part of our brain is through this technique. So it involves our senses, and it's really just requires you to sit in your environment and just take it all in. So you find 5 things that you can see and really take your time. I might see a lamp in front of me. I might see this cup. I might see some scissors, and 4 things that you can touch. So again, exploring my surroundings, and really I find that it's really easy to quickly brush through it. But if you take your time and again, be mindful in that moment, you can really get just really tactile into it. So if I was to grab this cup, I'd feel the groove on the top. So that's 4 things that you can touch. Next thing is 3 things that you can hear. So I might hear the radio outside in the waiting room, clock ticking, my own voice. After that, it's 2 things that you can smell. So I might smell the lunchroom or my hot cup of tea. And lastly is one thing that you can taste. So you might make yourself something to eat. You might, even if you haven't got something to eat, you might, taste your finger or explore the saltiness of your skin. That's a really good technique that gets you out of that fight or flight response. Just reboot that parasympathetic part of your nervous system and just thinking rationally and back into your present moment. So that's really what mindfulness is about. It's really living in the moment, being aware of your surroundings without getting carried away. That's a really good technique that works. Breathing techniques as well, they tend to reboot that parasympathetic nervous system as well. A technique that's used a lot in yoga practices is alternate nostril breathing. Yep, it's when you pop these fingers on your forehead
All right,
and
I'm going
you
to do it
use
with
these
you.
two
I'm going to do it
fingers.
with you. Come on,
Got it,
everyone
got it.
watching, let's give
Everyone
this a
do
go.
it. Get into it. So let's pop out 2 fingers here, right? And then we've got these 2 fingers that are going to block, have the, I can't speak right now, are responsible for each nostril. So we're going to breathe in, right? We're going to block this nostril and we're going to breathe in from this one. About 3 seconds. Now cover it and breathe out the other one for 3 seconds. Now leave this covered and breathe in through this one for 3 seconds. Block it again and breathe out. And continue that process. And if you can hold that, you just build it up in small increments. It's a great little thing to have up your sleeve, even relaxing of a night time. If you do it for 5 minutes, it's such a blissful exercise to do.
Yeah.
And again, it tends to regulate that nervous system. I've got a few up my sleeves. Then you've got, your tapping. So tapping, it's called bilateral stimulation. So our brains really find bilateral stimulation soothing, even tapping in general, even if you want to just tap your legs. If you think of a baby being soothed when they're asleep and you tap their bottom or you tap their back, it's a great example of how it just calms that nervous system.
On that one, Sol, with tapping, I use a lot of tapping in my energy medicine. And I love, again, our Western and Eastern medicine coming together like a beautifully fine-tuned. So one of my favorite ones is, do you guys do this one, the tapping of, we call it the tapping of the third eye, but I'm sure you call it something different.
You can do anywhere really that you tap. You can do this. You can, like I said, tap your legs, cross your arms. It's really soothing for your brain. And that will sort of
Amazing.
regulate that with deep breathing, shorter inhale than longer exhale. Those little things are really good for just grounding you and bringing you back to that present moment.
It really does reprogram that nervous system a little bit, doesn't it, in that moment?
It really does. It really does. We see it a lot with trauma clients because, the way that trauma works is that it really affects that lower region of your brain, which is in charge of emotions and memories, fight or flight response. So someone that's been exposed to childhood trauma or a long period of abuse, for example, it really alters the way your nervous system reacts to stress. And that's when we're able to see a lot of people are very hypervigilant when they're traumatized. So you might notice the trauma clients that have been on alert all the time, so jumpy when they hear a sound or really reactive. And that's a sign that, that part of their brain is just in overdrive. It tends to get stuck. So what we do, the approach that I usually start by working with that part of the brain before we can get them to think clearly. And it's just a matter of using these type of exercises. Now, it's got to be done regularly in order to work, to create new neural pathways and just teach their nervous system that it's okay, like just regulate it and get it out of that auto drive and bring it back to stability before you can access your rational part of your brain.
It really reminds me of when we were learning to be parents and we had toddlers, and you've still got toddlers. You've got 4 children, which is crazy.
Yeah, very crazy.
But they're amazing kids. So it reminds me when we're dealing with toddlers and they're having a massive tantrum. Not saying that adults are having massive tantrums every time they're having a panic attack, but there is no point trying to tell that toddler off in that moment of meltdown because nothing's getting through. They are shut
No,
down. And adults are just the same. When we're having these fight and flight responses, there's no way that we can logically think or plan or
no.
analyze correctly. So, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what usually happens, and this is a bit of neuroeducation coming your way, what usually happens is, so if you were to think of that as your brain, right? So you've got your cortex here, so the top region of your brain and your prefrontal cortex. Now that area there is mainly responsible for rational thinking, making good decisions, and that useful bit of information that actually doesn't develop until you're nearly 30 years of age, I think. So it takes it, hence why teenagers aren't very good at making rational decisions at times. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's a little side note.
We didn't go through that at all when we were
No,
teenagers.
no,
Not at
I
all. We
developed
made,
that when I was 10. Yeah,
yeah, we were
yeah,
very good. We were very,
covered it,
very good. Mm-hmm.
covered it. We're very advanced in that sense.
Yep. Yep.
Um, So yeah, that's your brain there. That evolved a lot later than this part of your brain. So it's that back part of your brain there. And that's where the limbic system, that's where your emotional brain sits. So your fight or flight response, your memories, everything gets stored into here. So back in the caveman days, before this came along, we used to depend on this. So you saw a big tiger coming your way and you just ran for the hills or fought it or collapsed and died. So what goes on? Usually you find another little region called the thalamus. Now, what the thalamus is responsible for, think of it like your main computer in your brain. So we get like sensory inputs. For example, let's do it someone that's been bitten by a dog. So we get a sensory input like sight. Your sight sends it off to that computer programming center, your thalamus. And usually what happens is your thalamus takes the high road and sends it to your reasoning part of your brain, and your brain is able to go, oh yeah, there's a dog there, but they're pretty far away. What are the chances of it biting me? Not much. Now, there are times where that information takes the low road. The low road means it bypasses the rational thinking. It goes straight to your amygdala, so straight to your stress response. So that's when fight or flight kicks in. The top goes completely offline, so that's why you can't think rationally, or, for example, children can't think rationally when they're having a massive tantrum. And it's all about, again, your big meltdowns, fight or flight for adults, or collapse and give in. And what we want to do through those exercises, and with children as well, really talking calmly to them and mirroring, like being able to mirror a calm person, all those tricks work in rebooting that top cortex of your brain that, again, just gets you back into rational thinking. With trauma clients, that's really on overdrive, so they might hear a loud noise or see that dog, instantly memories get triggered, and then they take the low road most often than the high road.
Yeah.
That's
That
that
is
in a nutshell.
fascinating.
So children, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. And I know it's hard as parents. It's hard to not lose our temper.
Yes.
But if you can think, when their storm meets your calm,
Yeah.
co-regulation occurs. You can really regulate that child.
Soledad and I have been learning together this whole
Oh,
parenting thing. We have alter
oh
egos
yeah.
called Roberta, and we call each other
Oh,
and go,
and again, there's that fight or flight response that me and Sarah go to. Like, we get triggered so much that it's just like Roberta comes out. One goes through it.
everyone does. And every time we catch ourselves, every time we're able to calm ourselves and work through it or remove ourselves from the situation until we know our brain can start to take control again,
Yeah,
we're teaching our children something very important because they are watching everything.
100%. They are absorbing everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
So if you're having Roberta moments, guys, forgive yourself. Just keep learning from it. Just
That's
keep,
right. Go make yourself a cup of tea and then just try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. Really take your time to
yeah,
fix the glass.
put yourself in timeout. I say to my children, Mummy's going in timeout now. I need a minute. And then I hide in my closet.
Yeah, I need a minute. And you have to. You
Yeah.
have to.
And that's the way that you explained how the brain's reacting is really important. And this isn't just for children, but children are a beautiful example of how that works.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
some other tips we can use when this happens to us, when we are having a Roberta moment? And it could be in road rage, it could be with children, it could be at work when someone's just triggered us. What can we do?
Like I mentioned before, usually it's, say, for example, you take 4-second breath in, you hold
Oh,
it for 4, and you release for 8 seconds.
I love that one. Can we do that for the
Yeah.
audience now?
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's
So
do
we
it.
go in for 4, hold for 4, release for 8.
Okay. All right. So it reminds me of a box, this one. I do it in
What
a
people call box breathing.
oh, is it the same thing?
I think so. Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of people, I
Okay.
think it's called
Yeah.
box breathing.
Okay. All right. Lead the way. I will follow your lead.
Okay. So in for 4, hold for 4, release for 8. Then you repeat it again just as you need it. But I find that it's called diaphragmic breathing as well. Now, a lot of people breathe in shoots through their lungs. It's just how we always go. But you're going to get a lot more oxygen intake if you breathe through your diaphragm. So if you usually put your hands on your tummy and really push out that big muscle that sits underneath
Yeah.
our belly button, breathing through your diaphragm, and then you have a lot more breath control when you're letting it out.
That's
So
really interesting that you mentioned about the diaphragm breathing, because something that I was taught in hypnosis and something that I look at with my clients in meditative state to see if they're going into from alpha to theta brainwave, I'm looking at the way they're breathing, and their breathing shifts from the chest into
yeah,
the diaphragm area,
yeah.
and you really know they're in a deep state of relaxation. So you're forcing that to occur and bringing yourself into an alpha state when you do that, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. If you really bring it back to that, you can just channel into that breath a lot more.
Mm.
You've got more control of it, and you can really control that. It gives you the ability to exhale for 8 rather than breathing through here and then getting to 7 and really running out of the air.
And I remember they taught my son this during his asthma training. So we went through lots of courses with his asthma because he was a very bad asthmatic, and they taught us to exhale 2 to 3 times more than the inhale, really allowing the CO2 there.
And that tends to reduce your heart rate too. When you do get panicky, and I guess I don't have asthma, but I guess it would be so easy to get panicky in that whole process because you close up.
Yes. Yeah, it
Holding
doesn't
that,
help.
releasing it slowly, I think slows everything down. It slows your heart rate down and it just gets back into that state. I would
Yeah.
find it really challenging.
Definitely. Stress does not help with asthma at all. Sometimes when they're panicking because they're panicking, and then all of a sudden, which is another subject I want to talk about, panicking because you're panicking. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I feel you touched on it earlier about how anxiety isn't exactly the enemy. It's only when it's dysregulated that it becomes the enemy. But can we talk about how a lot of people tend to panic that they are having anxiety?
Yeah. So anxiety, the second thing that comes with anxiety is your physiological reactions. People get an increased heart rate, they can get tingling limbs, they can feel numbness of the face, they can get really shaky, they can also get tummy issues. A lot of people get some diarrhea and stuff like that. So when that happens, that's when people start thinking something is wrong with me.
Yeah.
Something is what's happening? Am I having a heart attack? My heart is pounding. Have I got a brain tumor? My hand is tingling.
Mm.
Am I having a stroke? My
Yeah.
face is numb. And look, obviously, you've got to wait up. I'm not saying that you won't be having a stroke, but it usually ties in with anxiety that you are going to get a lot of those physiological reactions. And that makes people very scared because those thoughts do race through their mind. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating people on why this happens. Because once you have a reason why, then it's a lot easier for you to get out of that state.
Mm.
And so when people don't know that and they don't know why it's happening, that it's such a scary experience for
Yeah.
them that then they become scared of that anxiety. So
Yeah.
it's almost like another trigger becomes a fright of going through that scary time again. And it's a massive cycle of anxiety where you see that. So your parasympathetic nervous system is part of your autonomic nervous system, and it's usually called rest and digest. So what's going on there is there's a lot of blood flow to your vital organs. You're nice and relaxed. You're happy. You're chilled. It's your optimum time to just be in the normal zone. When fight or flight kicks in, so if you think of a caveman, that caveman has got to get the hell away from the situation. So your body goes from rest and digest to fight or flight. Now, when we're running away from something or fighting it, we don't need our bodies to focus on digesting our food, do we? We need extra energy in our limbs, in our arms, in our hands to get the hell out of there or to fight. So all those physiological responses that you're getting, for example, the butterflies in your tummy, is a sign that your body's taking the blood from those not so necessary organs at the time and sending them to your limbs. So you've got massive blood flow coming into those muscles that are getting ready. That's why you might feel tingling. You might feel lightheaded because you've got a lot of the blood up here gets sent to your legs. Hence why your heart rate is pumping faster, because it's doing that whole transition job of getting you out of there. So I think, again, it's really important to educate people on this, that it's a normal physiological process. It doesn't mean that you're dying. You're not going to die from it. You're not having a heart attack. It's your body doing its job for survival, and it's taking attention of what is not needed during this emergency situation in order to get the hell out of there. But yeah, people that aren't aware of that really tend to panic.
This is a really important conversation to have. I was actually just having this conversation with the meditation group last night, and we were
Yeah,
actually doing a nervous system meditation, which you know very well because you helped me with lots of tips to add to this particular
yeah.
meditation. So thank you. And afterwards, many people said that they felt very tired afterwards. And I said, that's really interesting that you feel tired. Or could it be that for the first time in a very long time, you're actually in parasympathetic mode instead of sympathetic mode?
Yeah,
And isn't that
rest and
crazy that we are
digest.
running on adrenaline continuously?
Exactly.
There may not be a saber-toothed tiger chasing us anymore,
Mhm.
but it's the bill that arrives in the letterbox. It's the
Yeah,
phone call. It's the school drop-off. It's the
yeah,
million things to do. It's the expectations of social media. They're all
yeah,
the saber-toothed tiger now,
yeah.
and they're constant.
Yeah, 100%. It could be being late to work, being stuck on the freeway, and you're sitting there and your brain doesn't know how to process that. In the modern world, again, like you said, that's a saber-toothed tiger. The saber-toothed tiger is getting late to your job and your boss giving you a lecture because this is the second time you've been late during the
Yeah.
week. And as human beings these days and age, this day and age, we are a lot more, a lot busier, a lot more stressed. The times that we're going through, again, like you said, that bill financially are all triggers for us to go
Mm.
through that. And yeah, and going back to where that education is really needed, that's where we can fall into that pit of being scared with those symptoms that come on board, rather than, because a lot of people don't know what's actually going on physiologically. But I think that once you educate people on it, and then they can just be assured that this is what's happening, you have those tools, it is such a big help. Obviously, then we usually do have to work more with what's triggering it, because if you've had abuse, for example, you do have certain triggers that you need
Mm.
to work through. Even though you do have these coping mechanisms, it's always going to be there unless you work through it. But
Yeah.
as I said at the start, these things are really good to have for the here and now.
I know that going back to tapping, because I find it extraordinarily helpful as well. I'm not sure if there's one in psychology or counseling that we talk about, but in my world, we talk about meridians as a particular point, and
Mhm.
we find the actual gap in between the ring finger and the little finger, and you find the
Yeah.
joint right in that point. And you can either press it while
Mhm.
breathing deeply, or you can tap. And I
Yeah.
tell you what, this one has saved me so many
Really?
times because it seems
Oh,
to
I
be the
might
one I
do that.
remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually have a dementia client, a time where he's no short-term memory, yet he
Mm,
remembers
mm.
this one. He remembers
Yeah.
it. And even when he's completely disconnected from the world, he's doing this
We'll
tapping and it
revert to that.
helps.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? I know that again, going back to the nervous system, the vagal nerve plays a big role in the fight or flight response. That's the longest nerve in our body that goes from up here to the end of our toes. And they're, I think, stimulating the vagus nerve. Vagus means wandering because it wanders
Yeah.
everywhere. It's involved in our digestive system and everything. Yeah, in therapy, it's called vagal theory. You work a lot with that stress response, and you can do a lot of exercises to stimulate that vagal nerve, which helps you too. So, for example, if you put your hand in your ear there and you pull down, so hook it like a hook,
Yeah.
if you hold down and release, and then you hold down and release. That's said to provide support, because I know that within that is a branch of that vagus nerve. But I'll have to look into
Wow.
that one. That's fascinating.
Yeah. This is what we do, guys. We just teach each other things constantly. We love
We
it.
do. We ring each other and we're like, "Oh my goodness, I found this out." You're like, "Oh my goodness, I found this out." Like, oh.
No, that's awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to add, Sol, before we close up today?
No, that's basically it. If you're lost, if you ever feel alone, if you're ever really struggling with anything, reach out to Sarah. She has helped so many wonderful clients. And it's just wonderful to have such a caring energy healer at the palm of your hand. Reach out to her, or you can feel free to give me a call if anyone's just got some deep stuff that they want to work through. Help is available, and I want to remind people that it's okay for us to ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. So many people, especially so much of older generations, there's this whole thing about reaching out being a sign of weakness. I can't do it. But you'll just be amazed at how speaking to someone and working through these long-term issues can have on your life and your healing journey. Reach out for help. Even if it's not me or Sarah, there are other
Yeah.
people out there, but we'll be happy to take you on.
Absolutely. Whoever
And if you're
feels
interested in
right.
the workshop, come along. We can have a chat, have a meetup, and learn a bit more about delving into the whole mental health sector.
I think we'll be doing lots of work together in the future. So maybe even some virtuals for those listening from other countries. I know there are quite a few international listeners.
Yeah,
We're going to be having that opportunity for you in the future. I haven't even spoken to Sol about it, but I know she's going to be cool
yeah.
with
Yeah,
it.
and look, of course, Tick, I offer telehealth or Zoom sessions as well. I've decided to take that on board. It'll be a lot like this in my little office, and so for anyone that is interstate or international, I'm happy to take you on here as well.
Amazing. So please, I highly recommend, I've said this many times in my podcast, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. When we mix Western and Eastern and spirituality together, it is like putting so many beautiful pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together. Maybe
Yeah.
one might not work extremely well.
Without another, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You've
And some
just got
people
to
just need one, and that's
explore.
fine. Yeah. And that's
That's
fine. So
it. It's explore and see what works for you. It's ultimately what works for you, and you'll find it.
that's right. And that's why I've gotten Sol on this podcast and why I've invited her into the studio to work, because I'm so passionate about having that safety net while doing energetic work and mindset transformational work. That's amazing. But also make sure that you've got some structured counseling if you're going through some pretty intense stuff, because people like Sol are very much trained in these scenarios and they know exactly how to direct you and where to direct you. If it's psychology or psychiatrist, etc., or a doctor, they will know, they'll act like a coordinator a lot of the time. Is that
Yeah,
correct,
yeah.
Sol?
Exactly, exactly. And I'm very honest in that sense as well. Like I don't work outside my capacity, and if anyone comes in here and there's something that I can't deal with, or my professional limits only go a certain way, rest assured that I will point you in the right direction. I think it's very important to have a person like that you're working with that
Yeah,
also knows their own limits and their own professional limits. But
absolutely.
it's a really good thing to have. I work with anxiety, depression, self-esteem, life transitions, trauma work is one of my biggest passions.
I'm going to refer my clients that are doing some heavy work, like, for example, the inner child workshop. We just finished doing an incredible 2-part inner child workshop at Enchanted, and it was next level. The things that these people, these beautiful women, were opening up, and they were just having these huge aha moments and
Mm,
transformational work. And
beautiful.
that was great, but we also had you on tap. We knew that you were there
Yeah.
for these
Yeah.
ladies, one phone call
Yeah.
away if they
Yeah.
needed any assistance, and just them knowing that you were there on tap was so,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
caught the net. They may not have needed to call, but the fact that they could was really important.
It's also important to have that support network. I tell my clients all the time, it's really important that you have a good support network to go home to rely on people around you too, because it's really, you need it in those in between times where
Yeah.
you're doing a lot of inner child work that might trigger some things that you didn't know you had going on
Yeah.
subconsciously, and
Mm.
vice versa. So thank you.
Oh, no, thank you. And thank you so much for coming on this show. We'll have to have you
You're
again.
welcome. Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yes, can't
Um,
wait to work with
yeah,
you in the studio. So,
and
those
I'm
of you that are,
excited.
yeah, I know it's going to be great. So you can actually book. I'll put the booking link for Soledad's afternoon Tuesday sessions, but I'll also put Soledad's email, website, email. What's the best way for people to contact you?
On my email. So email is sdvcounsellor.com, and they can, send me an email or my phone number if anyone's interested in booking in an appointment. Like Sarah said, I'll be available on Tuesdays, every alternate Tuesday at Wallen Healing Tree. I provide virtual help. Yep, virtual help. And I've also got my offices here, my consulting rooms here in Essendon North. Yeah, so you can reach me in various locations. Just give me a call or shoot me an email.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sol.
Thank you for having me.
Love you. Bye. See
Talk
ya.
soon.